Well, joining us now for more, we have Ben Dror Yemini, senior journalist from the Yedioth Ahronot Daily, and Professor Uzi Rabi, director of the Moshe Dayan Center for Middle East Studies at Tel Aviv University. Professor Rabi, let's start with you. What the IDF, you believe the government here is hoping strategically to achieve with this operation in Jenin, the biggest in something like 2 decades, but not a full-scale operation such as we saw back during the days of the Second Intifada.
Had 2 decades ago, but Jenin is still there. And as was the case then, it is definitely right now. It has become a sort of a hub for terrorists, a source of negative inspiration, so to speak. And basically, the whole case study of Jenin stands to indicate the vulnerability of the situation itself, the inability of the PA to exert full influence on Judea and Samaria, the Hamas being strived for hegemony in this region, and Israel that has to do what is being done now in order to improve, at least partially, what we call actually the ability to deter the other or the rivals from doing what they did now. I have to tell you, Calev, what you got in Jenin these days is kind of a weak link with many, many armed militias, a proliferation of weaponry, and basically this is the cocktail which is composed of all these things that are the byproducts of the inability of the Palestinian Authority to control the region. Israel has to do that, but I would say that we have to be very, very careful of the spillover effect, because now we do talk about the proliferation of arenas, and we have to make sure that this stays in Jenin and not being spilled over to Ramallah, Bethlehem, or even Gaza and South Lebanon. So we have to wait and see. But for the time being, this is kind of an operation which should be understood tactically or militarily speaking, a very limited one. But we'll have to wait and see actually what the ramifications are.
Right, and Ben Dror Yemini, there is a political dimension here. There have been voices within this government calling for a major operation of the sort in Jenin for the very reasons Professor Rabi just said. But it is a limited operation to some degree. In fact, we just spoke with the international spokesman of the IDF, Colonel Richard Hecht, who didn't even call it an operation. He called it a counterterrorism event. Do you think this is going to be enough to satisfy those voices within the government, within the coalition, that want to see more action taken, especially if we continue to see terror actions in the West Bank?
Okay, anyways, this kind of operation, or whatever we are going to call it, it's not going to limit the political debate. I just want to comment about something that Asaf Al-Jami said about the political side, the international side, that this is not the way to solve the problem. Just to remind him that once and again, when there was a peace initiative on the table, speaking about Ehud Barak, speaking about Bill Clinton, speaking about Ehud Olmert, speaking about John Kerry and Barack Obama, they always said no. Just no. It's the only one thing that they could say, unfortunately. So if they want to blame, they can blame only themselves. There is not one state in the world that will enable that kind of terror going on. And then in the international community, they are complaining against Israel. I mean, what? Enough. Because just let's bear in mind, the Palestinians again and again rejected. I'm not speaking about this government, but generally speaking, in the last 2 decades and more, they rejected any peace initiative. By the way, they rejected even the Saudi Arabia initiative. They changed it so that it will include the right of return, which is totally unacceptable. But they never accepted the idea of 2 states for 2 peoples. Let's not forget it. And unfortunately, we are speaking also about who? About Iran. Professor Uzi Rabi just mentioned it. Wherever, not wherever, there is any kind of interference of Iran, the outcome is total destruction. Look at what is going on right now in Lebanon. It's collapsing. It's collapsing. That's what they will do to the Palestinians. That's what they did in Yemen. So enough with blaming Israel, that Israel is only doing one thing, trying to defend itself from this kind of terror.
Right. And Professor Rabi, Ben Dror mentioned the growing influence of Iran in the West Bank. This also follows just in the past month where we've seen attempted rocket launches from the Jenin area. We've seen the use of roadside bomb devices, IEDs, in Jenin. We've seen this morning's operation, which involved the use of helicopters and drones. There is a sense we're starting to see the West Bank turn into something like the Gaza battlefield or even the South Lebanon battlefield, as Ben Dror said. And one wonders if this kind of operation is going to be enough to reverse that trend or to halt it.
Well, I fully agree with what you just said and what Ben Dror said about the possible turning of the Judea and Samaria to kind of an arena that would be very combustible, as is the case with Gaza. But look at what's going on now. Hamas is trying actually to come up with sort of a double standard platform by which actually to attack Israel from Jenin and north of Samaria. Not doing that from Gaza because he has a lot to lose. And on top of that, there is the Iranian octopus, and I fully agree with that. This is part and parcel of the Quds force of the Revolutionary Guards, just to put more and more pressure on the immediate borders of Israel by using proxies. And I dare say that when it comes to Judea and Samaria, both Islamic Jihad and Hamas are being used by Iran as kind of a proxy with which to put more pressure on Israel. Let me remind you, Calev, that Hamas was rocketing Israel from the south of Lebanon a month and a half ago. So we do see here something which is unprecedented. Iran does feel that the stage is ripe for it to come up and claim for hegemony by using simultaneously all these proxies and leave behind the impression that if Iran is going to be attacked, this is what we're going to get all over the place. This is a very tough psychological kind of a contest and a rivalry. And Israel, as I say always, should be not only well articulated and well organized when it comes to the military tactics. I think that Israel should compose kind of strategy with which to deal with all these threats in a different manner. This is a very tactical, limited operation that aims at leaving behind the impression that Israel has the answer to what we see in Jenin. But we should remember, Jenin has become kind of a very edge of one of the arms of the octopus, the Iranian octopus, that happened to be seen in Jenin, but could be seen everywhere. So this is the opera, and I hope Israel would internalize that and turn its reaction into something that would be much more to the point when the time comes.